Welcome to the Swing Set. Climb on up, there is always a swing available. On Life on the Swing Set, the podcast, we explore ethically non-monogamous relationships, the pleasures and passions, the promise and pitfalls. We discuss all aspects of ethical non-monogamy in a fun, open, and welcoming fashion, with a gleam in our eye, a bounce in our step, our hands down your pants. Ooh, sorry, got ahead of myself. We may be biased. In fact, we most certainly are. But we don't sugarcoat, and each of us speaks honestly and earnestly about our thoughts, ideas, and experiences throughout our very own lives on the swing set. Thanks for swinging by.
Hi, Swing Set fans. We love you. We love our listeners. We love that you engage us on Twitter at #SSPodcast and on our personal Twitter accounts, but we're greedy and we'd like your help engaging more listeners and more communities. Make sure you follow on Twitter at SwingSetFM and at On the Swingset, and throw our Swingset Family's podcasts and articles a retweet and a like. Also, feel free to yell at Dylan on Twitter. He loves that shit. Hey, who wrote? Oh, God, Cooper, that's the last time I read something without proving it.
The degree of complexity in relationship dynamics is exponential in non-monogamy. What that bullshit was trying to say was that people are complicated, and every time you add one to your life, things get more complicated. One of the most difficult situations in non-monogamy is helping your partner or paramour deal with major life and relationship flux that doesn't directly involve you. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight on Life on the Swing Set, the podcast. I'm Cooper Beckett, and with me I have...
Hey everybody, it's Ginger.
Hello, it's Katie Mack.
And I have a FMF threesome here.
You're such a rock star.
Yeah, I know. I party hard.
Turn down for what?
Welcome back, Katie.
Thank you.
with
I've never heard someone sound bored when they said that. That was amazing. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So bored. So boring.
So super boring.
So, Katie, with Desire episodes, it's been a long time since you've been here.
I know, it has.
And it's not your fault. We were all over the map with scheduling. So I want the listeners to blame me, really, is what I'm saying. If you missed Katie Mack in your life and aren't listening to Carnalcopia for some reason, because that's where you get, like, the most Katie Mack.
That's, like 60% more Katie on Carnalcopia than here.
Yeah, the ratios with, from a 4-person show to a 2-person show.
That was actually really good math all of a sudden. I was like, wow.
Yeah, she just pulled math out of the air, just like math all
was
over
I even
our
right?
faces.
Oh.
I don't know.
So, it was close.
We were all over the map with scheduling, which I'm not going to let you take complete credit/blame for, Coop. Okay. And we were all over the map in the world. So there was that too. And with that being said, as I shared with the lovely Katie before, but I will share with the listeners as well, swing setters, I did my due diligence and shared with that Katie Mack all of your amazing feedback from Desire about how awesome she is on the podcast. So I just wanted you to know I did my thing. And
it's funny.
She wants to hear it from you too, tweet at her, send her emails, all that good stuff. So I'm happy to be the messenger, but there's no reason for me to be the in-between. Like, get in her face and tell her how awesome she is.
Yeah.
Coop, you know what color
Katie
my
will
face
get
is
embarrassed.
right now. Yeah, I was about to say like this.
But, it's almost more fun because she gets embarrassed to tell her how awesome she is. Which sounds non-consensual. So now that I think about it, Katie, do you consent to being told how awesome you are?
That feels like a trick question, but yes, I do consent to that. It's just, it's funny. If you ever get me in person, I'm like a fucking cartoon. Like, my face goes from like my pasty pale to like beet red in seconds. You can watch it happen. It's really cool.
It is really cool.
It's like old school, like David Letterman's stupid human tricks. Like, watch Katie's face go from white to red in 2.2 seconds. I love that. I think that's awesome. Without that, without letting that deflect how awesome you are and how much you're adding to the show, I just want you to really hear that. And I want the swing setters to know that we are hearing what you were saying as well. So definitely keep the feedback coming. coming regardless of Katie's blushingly awesomeness.
Regardless of, because of,
Exactly.
all those things.
Because she consented, yo.
But we're very happy you're back.
I'm happy I'm back too.
So one of the reasons we're doing this topic...
Oh, sorry, continue.
That was like a pain sound. She's like,
It's because clearly it pains you. And
Damn.
it pains you. We were talking about how much, how difficult it is to navigate. You know, when you're in monogamy, it's really you and your partner. So either you're having trouble and you have to still bring it for your partner, or they're having trouble and you bring it for your partner. But when you're in a non-monogamous relationship, be it swinging or polyamory or something in between, your partner can have all these feels because of the way their relationship is shifting. And it can be really difficult as the person sort of on the outside of that relationship to be the comfort or to give the advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah.
it's just so complex. I was like trying to figure out as I was listening to you talk, Coop, about like where to even start, like which angle to start from in terms of, you know, supporting a partner through a breakup or difficulties. I mean, it doesn't even have like, you know, we just look at fluctuations, like the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of relationships. That always happens. And I feel like from my perspective, I would much rather be the one going through those fluctuations. I'd much rather be the one who is being emotionally responsible for myself in those ups and downs and be able to kind of package myself for my partners and be like, no, I'm good. I'm great. I'm fine. And that's part of just how I roll. But when I think about a partner going through those difficulties, I find myself being almost hyper vigilant. Like, are you good? Are you good? Is there anything I can do? Like, to the point of being annoying, where you're really trying to check in so much that they're like, yeah, I was fine until you brought it up, you know? And
like, can we just not talk about it?
Right. Do we have to do that all the time? Do we have to talk about it or check in all the time? So I would much rather be the one going through those difficulties than really, you know, supporting a partner through the difficulties, because I just don't like seeing people I care for suffer. It's so hard to watch.
When one of the reasons that this topic really resonated for me is I've been the person on the outside, you know, coaching my partners and extended partners through issues in their relationships. But everybody who listens to the podcast knows that I went through a pretty rough divorce. And while I was going through that divorce, I was starting a new relationship with my current partner, Ophelia. And I was also in another relationship. And really quickly, it became apparent that I had the absolute bare minimum of emotional bandwidth and was just barely scraping by with enough to support myself. And it quickly became about who can get by with that tiny bit of extra that I have to give and not feel that they are being slighted, or not feel that this is forever, because it was for a couple months, but it was not forever, obviously. But it was really interesting to look at, because I can go to that objective place where I can see how I'm behaving. I can't change it, but I can see it. And I watched myself be a fairly not terrible partner, but difficult partner. And it really, it really meant a tremendous amount that Ophelia not only saw me through it, but stayed through the entire process. Because I would not have blamed anyone for wandering away. And I made it very clear as I was going through the process. It's like, this is what I have to give you. And if that's not enough, I completely understand. Because it may not even be enough for me. But if you can stick it out with me, things will get better. And so, Katie, when you and I were talking about it, I really reflected on when we are going through tremendous amounts of stress and pressure, especially from major life issues. I called the episode My Partner's Breakup because breakups are pretty major, especially when they're bigger than just I've been seeing you for a couple months and now we're breaking up. We all go through those ebbs and flows in non-monogamy. But when it's a major breakup and there's almost no fucks left to give for the person going through it, I know I can lash out, and I have very little patience for people who didn't have patience for me. So that's Cooper just exposing everything on the table here. I would love it if someone else talked.
I'm just going to put my head down for
Aw. Big hugs, Katie.
Big hugs.
Big hugs.
Biggest hugs.
I am supporting you going through the difficulty of this episode.
Well, and see, Coop, there's a word choice in here that I'm giggling about that I did when you used it when you and I were talking independently. So the background information here is I reached out to Cooper not too long ago, like, hey, I got some shit going on. Like, can we talk? Do you have a second? And I said, rap with me, Katie. I got out my turtleneck.
I was going to say, were you wearing a black turtleneck?
Yeah.
And a tweed sport coat?
Oh my God.
Which is really my Carl Sagan look more than my beatnik look. But go on, Katie. I'm sorry. This is what I do. I break the tension.
I know.
When I'm
Poor
uncomfortable.
thing. We're all traumatized, and now Katie's trying to make a point, and we're just like talking about Carl Sagan.
No,
Katie.
That's totally fine. We can just do an episode about Carl Sagan if you want.
I would totally do an episode about Carl Sagan.
I know you would. But we won't because we're talking about breakups. FML.
Yes. Well, I brought this topic up to Coop. The cliff note of me dealing with my partner, dealing with, their own breakup and, divorce, using that word with like a capital D, if we're talking about, significance of breakups. And Coop, the first question you asked me was if I was having trouble supporting them through their breakup.
Mm-hmm.
And I started laughing because whether or not I could be supportive hadn't even entered the spectrum of thoughts that I had.
Oh, wow. Sure.
I was trying to screw my head on straight to survive my partner's breakup. I was like, am I having trouble supporting them? I mean, I guess probably by default, sure. But that wasn't even my focus. If that makes sense. I mean, to be fair, for this entire episode, I am appointing myself the official unelected representative of the newbie cohort to all of this.
Oh, good. Good.
No, that's excellent.
If you've never dealt with this shit before, I got you because neither have I. So let's all figure this out.
And it was really heartbreaking for me to basically when you mentioned this to me, Katie, I threw out essentially everything I just threw out and how difficult it was and how I did lose a partner, not just because of the divorce, but fairly tangentially related to the divorce. Mm-hmm. And I would have, again, understood if I lost both partners because of it, because, we are not built to process let me rephrase. We are not trained to be able to process both our immediate breakups as well as dealing with the feelings of other people. It's why when we're in monogamous relationships and we break up, we go to our friends and say, hey, take care of me. And maybe I'm not going to be helpful for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But in a non-monogamous relationship, we have these other partners that still deserve our attention and our focus. And it becomes so extra difficult as the person going through something catastrophic in a relationship to be able to give that focus.
Well, it makes me think about a couple of things. One is that when you are non-monogamous and you're multi-partnering and you're in that world, you realize that love is different with every single human, or at least for me it is, that it has its own quality, character, place in my being. And when you lose that, it's a loss no matter what. And I feel like sometimes as partners, we can be like, but you still have me. And it's like, well, of course I do. And how grateful I am that I do have you, but there's still a loss. So there's that. And then there's the bigger, more mainstream piece of people who are like, you greedy motherfucker. Like, are you kidding me that you're grieving and mourning this breakup when you have this primary partner who's a rock star, ass kicking, amazing human who is loving you with all they have? And it's like, yeah, you know what? I am that greedy because I'm allowed to be, because I'm choosing this lifestyle. And B, I need to grieve or mourn this loss because it was a unique relationship to me. And it did live in this part of me that is now vacant. And there's so much pushback in so many ways that when you're the one who's going through the breakup or the loss or the difficulty, that you kind of are your own enemy in that, because you're always internalizing, or at least I am. I won't speak for the whole world right now. I'll just speak for me because, here I am just speaking for me, that when you're going through that kind of difficulty, you're like, who am I to want all these relationships, to deserve all these relationships? And who am I to impose upon this partner or these partners over a romantic dinner, kvetching about my other partner that I feel like I'm having difficulties with? Like, that is so self-indulgent. I don't know what else the definition of self-indulgent is at this point. And so, like, you're just constantly being bombarded with these counterweights to how you are feeling. And those feelings are legit, like they're real. And I can't speak to how valuable it is to have my community, to have you guys, to have other friends who multi-partner that I can share my experiences with when those things happen. And it's a very special thing to be able to extend that empathy to friends going through a breakup when they have other multiple partners in their life who are awesome.
It made me realize that I can't imagine how difficult a divorce would be as a monogamous person.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have to go through that. Because I had tremendous people around me. I had a wonderful partner at the time. And it is that greedy feeling, that the decadence of multiple partners helping you through your divorce. It makes people who already feel guilty about the things they have, even more so. Guilty.
Oh, no. So
now I feel really guilty.
Oh, no. Do you want to take that guilt to a commercial break? Because, we can wear it through the commercial break and then jettison it after we take a break.
I like that idea, Jen. Well done.
Okay.
Well done. So we're going to take that commercial break and we're going to cram that guilt down into a little tiny package.
Yes.
And then leave it in the commercial.
I like it.
We'll be right back with Life on the Swing Set, the podcast.
Hey Swing Set fans, we want your help. We're searching near, far, long, short, and wide for opportunities to bring our message and our passion to the people, possibly live, but definitely direct. If you know of an event or a space near you that may be interested in having the swing set out, let us know. Send us information at contact@lifeontheswingset.com. Thanks.
When it comes to online dating, we here at the Swing Set believe that Cassidy is the best one out there. It looks great, it's intuitive and easy to use, and it's simply full of potential sexy friends. Still the fastest growing online swinger dating site in the world, Cassidy has been our go-to site for the last 3 years. If you sign up using our link at lifeontheswingset.com/KASIDIE, you'll get some free time to explore the site. And you can decide for yourself if Cassidy is the site for you. Hope to see you there at Cassidy.com. Welcome back to Life on the Swing Set, the podcast. Tonight we're talking about dealing with relationship fluctuations outside your primary relationship. Now, Katie, I'm going to put you on the spot.
That was just such a nice, gentle way to put it. I'm sorry, it just made me laugh.
It's all flux.
Relationship fluctuations, when things get really fucked up in other people's lives around you.
Jin made it more concrete.
Yeah.
I think there.
Okay, but you were about to put me on the spot.
Well, I was about to put you on the spot because, really, I think we've seen the angst and guilt side from within, but I am very curious how this is, because this is your first experience with non-monogamy. Not the divorce is not your first experience with non-monogamy, but this relationship is your first experience with non-monogamy.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering how that looks from the inside like that.
From the inside, it looks like a giant fucking mess.
Yeah,
more often
sometimes that's just Polly, Katie.
That's
honestly,
that's completely fair. And you're not the first person to say that. Or I'm like, God, why is this so fucking hard? And people are like, because Polly's hard. Get a helmet. Like, and there is something to that. I was talking to another friend of mine a while ago who pretty much told me that people think that the hardest thing about being non-monogamous is overcoming jealousy or maybe one day developing some semblance of compersion, that people think that that's the hardest part. And she was like, that's a load of fucking bullshit. The hardest part is watching your partner grieve someone who's not you while you're sitting there.
Because you can't fix it.
Yeah, because you can't fix it. There's not really, a nice, easy, rational way to frame it in your brain that just suddenly makes it not hard or not painful. And I think my own little, special circumstance in this regard is, this relationship is my first go-round with non-monogamy in general with another partner who's also like taking his first crack at this. So it's a lot of firsts all at once and a lot of us trying to very gingerly navigate that. And so in a lot of ways, we had been trying to figure out what we wanted our relationship to look like and what terms that we're going to take, and wanting to do it in a very kind of slow, progressive way where, we were monogamous to each other with the knowledge and intention of let's start skill building. Let's start like really looking at some of these things. Let's figure it all out. Maybe in some kind of weird, over-controlling, like, let's be really good at this before we actually do it kind of bullshit that doesn't really... I mean, if I'm being really self-aware about this, but the only reason why I'm kind of explaining that background is that, you know, going through this breakup or this divorce with my partner is kind of the first big poly challenge I've had.
Yeah.
We haven't...
This is trial by fire, Katie.
This is the total trial by fire. You know, we haven't dated other people. We haven't, like, done all of these things. So, like, the first big poly challenge is your partner is divorcing someone that they've been with monogamously for almost a decade.
Wow. Wow.
So if that provides any context to this...
And see, I know you, and I know how you take on conflict.
Whatever. You don't fucking know.
Well, and I think the most important thing is recognizing that while it is tempting to feel like you're the one doing things wrong as the outsider, and you start blaming yourself that you can't fix it. You know, Jen actually said one of the best things to me, you know, in Desire, Katie, there is a day for almost everyone who goes on this trip where there's some kind of emotional meltdown.
Oh, good. That's expected.
It is an intense place, and usually it happens on Thursday, I've noticed, because you've been there long enough.
Wednesday or Thursday?
The euphoria has worn off.
Or Tuesday.
And instead, you just plummet. And so what Jen told me is I was going through some of the shit, and she pointed out that we are all doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And that really resonated because a lot of this, especially when this is new, is extremely unfamiliar territory. Really, there is no legitimate manual for this. We have not watched this in movies. We do not know how to process some of these bizarre emotions, like how do you feel when your partner is crying about someone else? Mm-hmm. You know, what the world would tell us is you feel jealous that they are crying about someone else.
Right.
Because they're not crying about you, because that's okay.
If you're going to cry, motherfucker.
Well, and then there are the times when your partner might be crying about someone else and you're hot to trot for the new person.
Yeah, that's true.
So then it's like, okay, so you've
got that to look forward to,
No.
Katie, when you are in NRE and your partner is not.
Your partner's mourning a relationship.
Well, guys, I mean, this has been fun. I gotta go.
I think she just
she's going to
slapped
slam
her,
the monogamy door.
Yeah, she just slapped her resignation papers on the desk and was like, "Fuck this shit."
No, not at all.
When it's really important to recognize that that walls get built very quickly around people who are going through very intense emotional things. And from that internal point, I know I was trying very hard not to allow my misery to leak onto those around me. Because like Jen was saying at the beginning, we can control ourselves to an extent. Mm-hmm. So the problem with trying not to let our emotions leak on all over everything is we build walls to stop that from happening. And those walls can look like, I don't know, building walls between you and other people.
I don't know why you're saying that with such a negative connotation.
Well, you know, all of that being said, oh my gosh, you were the best. All of that being said, this is the other thing, though, as you're talking, Coop, that's so frustrating to me, is you can be having so much awesome pleasure and connection and just like sheer amazingness from other partners. And there's still a part of you that's like in that like fucking abyss of despair, the pit of despair, where you're just like, Kate, I don't know if this resonates with you at all, but Coop, bear with me here, but it's a FFM threesome, so you got to roll with it.
I'm on board.
Where you're just like, you're PMSing and you're like, I'm eating the fucking ice cream out of the pint. I'm watching the best movie ever. And I'm happy with my life in general. And I'm still fucking crying. Like, I'm still like, oh my God, like I'm in the pit of despair because that's like 2% of what I'm feeling, but 98% of what I'm feeling is so awesome. I just have to like legit give that 2% of what I'm feeling the attention that is due that 2%. Like, I don't even know, like it's irrational, but I feel like there is that part of when you are multi-partnered and you're having difficulty with a partnership and all of this awesomeness is happening with other partners and you want to be there fully with it. And then you just have these moments where you're like, oh, but there's this other person, there's this loss, there's this whatever. And you feel like you can't not give it its due right in that moment. Like, it just feels that, like, to me, it's like got a very PMS sort of quality to it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, and I'm totally willing to let it be just me.
No, no. No, that one's not just you. That sounds about right. I mean, listen, some days you just got to be grateful that wine comes in a glass and ice cream comes in a bowl. And that's pretty much it. No, I mean, I'm hearing all of you. All of this makes a lot of sense. It's just, this is...
Well, objective sense is worthless, honestly, in the real world.
You shut your mouth.
What I'm saying is emotional sense is the important part. Because objective sense, because like as I was doing this shit, drawing my boundaries and closing myself off and not wanting to hurt my partners, I was still being an asshole, whether I was right or not. I was not a pleasant person, and I'm sure our listeners can go back in time to a certain period in, let's say, the beginning of 2013, maybe first half, where they noticed that Cooper is a fucking nightmare to listen to for a while. And it's... You on the outside need to have your boundaries, on how you'll engage and how you won't engage, how you'll be treated and how you won't be treated. Really, everybody needs those specific boundaries. And then ultimately, the problem with this kind of conflict is both of your boundaries will either bash up against each other or be completely incompatible. And this is not yours. This is theoretical boundaries. Yeah. And all we can do as individuals, because an important thing to remember, and I think, Jen, you also gave me this one. Really, I credit Ginger with all my insight. All we can remember is that we are responsible for us first. Because if we are an emotional mess, we are not helping anybody. So therefore, it's like, when you're on the airplane and put on the oxygen mask first and then put it on the child. Because you're of no use if you're passed out. And so we need to develop these boundaries and how we process our extended paramour relationships, because without them, we have a tendency to dramatically overextend ourselves, overextend our compassion, overextend our empathy. And, I try not to say you because I am talking more about general situations, but we can easily find ourselves as emotionally passed out because we've overextended all this shit. And then we can't help when we actually have something we can help with. Because so much of this experience, no matter how compassionate and empathetic Ophelia was during my divorce, she could not actually help when conflict arose or when my stupid house was underwater. It was just an emotional thing that I was going to have to deal with regardless. And so insulating herself from some of that bullshit was the best thing she could have done because it helped her stay sane. It helped her stay with me.
Well, and Coop, with all of that said and agreed, like at some point, the partner who's the observer, who's watching this happen, who's supporting you through it, needs to choose their path. And I agree with you, like that person setting their own emotional boundary is important for their emotional health and also so they can continue to support you. I'm curious about, that phenomenon that tends to happen where your partner or partners become protective of you, where they're like,
oh yeah,
they're ready to throw down. They're like, bring it. Like,
it's like, do you want me to fight her?
Yeah, like torches, pitchforks, like just give me the address. Like it's going to happen. And you're just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. No, like that can't happen. Like I can't have my partner, this partner, getting on this partner's case about what's happening with me because it's just going to make it worse. And not that they're at all like against that partner. Like they probably have an affinity and an affection for that partner because for crying out loud, you share a human. Like I mean,
share a human.
You share a human. It's a beautiful thing. There's something beautiful about the paramour relationship. I mean, a lot of those relationships a lot of those relationships include a relationship in and of themselves that is loving and affectionate and sometimes sexual and all of those things. But sometimes those relationships are simply cordial and simply respectful and everything in between. Like that's amazing. But there is this whole phenomenon that can happen where all of a sudden the partner who's going through the difficulty, the challenge, has to, put on the black and white striped shirt and become a referee. And it's like, whoa, okay, this is more than I paid for at this point. Like, I'm just like, I gotta tag out of this. And so I feel like there's a point where a partner or partners can become overzealous maybe. And in their protectiveness, and that it's important to just recognize no matter what, that's not helpful. If you're not working through the partner who is the one who's going through the emotional turmoil, then you're just making things worse. And I've heard that, through the grapevine from other friends who've been like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Because my partner is, bombarding so-and-so with texts. And I'm like, okay, so not helpful. Like, let's just establish that. But that person has allowed, like, Coop, in your case, like Ophelia's case, like like if she had gone to a place where she was just so overzealous with her protectiveness, it just compounds the issue.
It does. Sometimes we want to hear the offer, but we don't actually want anything to happen.
Right. You can commiserate, like you can commiserate, but
like, do you want me to kick her ass? Do you want me to kick his ass? I'll do it right now. I think I've said that to you, Jen.
Yes, you have said that to me, and I would,
in my adorably nerdy way. As though I could kick anyone's ass. Wah, wah.
Oh my gosh, that's so adorable. But see, that is what it comes down to, is that idea of emotional support. I feel like it comes down to, and I'm not trying to do a, Saturday morning cartoons, the more you know thing here with this episode. I'm really not, but
feeling the rainbow.
It's okay if you are.
Little star.
The little thing, but you need to, whoever you are on the outside of watching these kinds of difficulties and challenges with other relationships, is to check in with your partner and just know that you can't just go rogue. You can't you can't be the knight in shining armor. You can't fix it for your partner. They need to have that connection with their partner, no matter how it's going to go down. And you just have to be there in this sort of generically awesome, empathetic way, which can be so hard.
Yeah. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, I want to talk about the less dire situations where it's simply about talking about your other partner's relationship conflict and how that can go. So we'll be back with more of Life on the Swing Set, the podcast, after this commercial message. Commercial message. What the fuck was that?
Sean Connery was trying to.
Commercial message.
He was trying to come out.
He was trying to come. He was. It was like sometimes I feel him inside me.
Right, that's what I felt.
Well, in that case, you should definitely come out. Come on out, Sean Connery. Promise. Water's fine.
Hey all, Cooper here to tell you the exciting news that my best-selling book, My Life on the Swing Set, Adventures in Swinging and Polyamory, is now available on Audible. As you may know, if you sign up for Audible now, you can get your first month and first audiobook free. So why not make it mine? Go to audible.mylotss.com and get 8 hours of newly produced audio content now. If you crave other methods of book consumption, you can purchase the DRM-free ebook or paperback, as well as the audiobook direct from me at mylifeontheswingset.com. You know you'd rather hear than read about my epic prostate orgasm. Why not do it now?
We at the Swing Set believe that being risk-aware and practicing safer sex makes our lifestyle exponentially better. With that in mind, we're partnering with Lucky Bloke, global condom experts and the best online source for condoms and lube, to say no to mediocre condoms and bring the most pleasurable, safer sex directly to our listeners. Go to swingsetcondoms.com to see a specially curated selection of condoms, lubes, and assortments to reintroduce variety and excitement into the protection portion of your playtime. You should especially take note of the deluxe sampler put together by us at the Swing Set for your party and date night kit. Making your condom purchase here supports both us at the Swing Set and the wonderful purveyors of safer sex, the Lucky Bloke. swingsetcondoms.com.
Welcome back to Life on the Swing Set, the podcast. I'd like to dial it back a little bit. You know, we talked a lot about divorce, and that's major relationship conflict. I have had the strange feeling of not wanting to provide too much advice about partners' relationships, because then I feel like I sort of have a responsibility if my advice goes poorly. Because unlike, you lovely listeners who, for some reason, take my advice, I don't have, you're not going to come back to me and say, well, fuck, that was terrible advice. Well, you might. I don't know. But so if I'm just talking in circles, Judy.
No, you were very pensive. You literally thought about that when you said it, and then you were like, well, they might. They might. It's true.
Well, I've often said my superpower is I don't think before I speak. So really, most realizations are right up there
but
in front.
you thought about it after you spoke. You considered it. And yes, you might get an email after the fact where a listener says, Coop, I followed your advice.
And fuck you.
No, it goes well most of the time.
It has not happened yet. But now it will.
No. God, see, I don't really like giving advice to anybody, let alone my partner. Like on the what should I do front? No.
So what do you do then? Let's say your partner going through this situation comes to you and say, "Oh, my partner is being so unreasonable. What should I do?" How do you deal with that?
God, I mean, it depends on why and what, and God, I have so many follow-up questions about your hypothetical.
Yes.
Yeah, of course there's variables, but really, my advice tends to really lean in the way of like introspective inaction. I'm not going to tell you to do anything. And this might be like my shiny psych degree. It might be because I'm evasive and don't want to be blamed for shit later. But if you come to me with advice, it's going to look a lot like, well, what are you actually feeling? Like, what do you need? Like, do you think that maybe taking time and sleeping on something would be helpful? Do you think that a conversation would be? Like, if you decide what you want to do, I can help you with strategy and I can help you plan and prepare, but I can't make that call for you at all.
One thing I learned that I do and that I've really worked my ass off to stop doing is I get overly involved in helping relationships stay together. Partners' relationships. Like when I see a relationship falling apart, I go in there and it's like, what can we do to make this work better? And it has gone badly for me multiple times. And so I've decided, I think rather reasonably so, that if a relationship that one of my partners is in is falling apart, I will try to do the same thing that you suggested, Katie, and let it die if it needs to die. Because if I'm reanimating the corpse, then I'm the first one to get bitten.
Yeah, Frankenstein's your fault in that case.
Katie, it's the monster? Yes, I'm that pedantic asshole.
But see, I think when it comes to your partners, there are, and maybe this isn't going to be like a universal, like just because I'm saying this doesn't mean it's actually right. But I'm still in a place, and I don't know if this will change later, but you know, for everybody that says, you know, well, just treat it the way you would a friend or be supportive, you know, and imagine that it's your best friend going through that. That doesn't necessarily work for me. There is a difference between me helping a friend through something and helping a partner through it. And that's a mental leap I've never really been able to make.
Yeah.
You know,
because it's a really difficult one.
Oh my God, yeah. And there's a different role in your life that this person plays, much in the same way that I could support my partner, I'd imagine, easily through so many other things. That would be really difficult if, you know, a partner were having issues with their job or their family or another friend. I could be fucking there. But it's just different because it is. And
well, it's also because you are literally more invested in the outcome.
Oh, yeah, completely.
Because the outcome is going to affect your specific relationship in some way, which is, I think, why I would get overprotective of my partner's relationships and try to fix them, because I could see the potential of that crack spreading to my relationship. Mm-hmm. You know, when the I'm going to stop with the metaphors. What is with me tonight? I was about to do one about thin ice.
No, metaphors are great. It's so we don't actually have to talk about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can bring the corpse back to life. And there was one that I just used the other day about, you know, like when you're trying really hard to make something work or bring the corpse back or keep it all alive. It's a lot like putting fish in a lifeboat. Like, you're like,
I like
you're
that.
like, yeah, get in the lifeboat. It's great. I'm going to take you to shore. That's fine. But like, they're fucking fish. You're not actually saving anyone. You're not.
They belong in the water.
You're not helping.
Asshole.
They belong in the water. Throw them the fuck back. In all of these different versions of the situation, no matter what side of it you're on, I think that this is one of those places where it's so easy to should yourself into submission.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to lie down, Cooper? I can just keep going. You can just...
You know how
Take a
I
rest.
am with shoulds. I mean,
Absolutely.
good Lord.
I should the fuck out of myself. And whether it's that I should be more capable or handling something more gracefully, or I shouldn't be bothered by something, or when something else happens that I think I should be bothered by, there's always that distance between where you are and where you think you ought to be. And I think that's the most damaging thing that you can do to yourself. And I say that like it's something that you could just flip a switch and stop. Obviously it's not, but it's an impulse and it's a thing. And I think it's one to be looked at.
Well, you should stop.
You should go fuck yourself.
No, it's
I'm sorry.
terribly should inducing.
Hey, Coop, when is Katie gonna, like, really come out of her
Be
shell?
comfortable on the show? Yeah,
I'm just, I've been
feel
waiting
like she
for
belongs?
it, and I'm just, I was just wondering.
I think I should loosen up. I'm too nervous.
Yeah,
Right.
you should contribute more and, really tell us how you feel.
Right,
'cause-
right. Thank you.
Take my
That's
shoes
all-
off, stay for a minute.
Yeah, that's all I needed. All right, go on.
Well, to be fair, I've been telling Coop to go fuck himself since long before I
Really,
started
half that
recording.
conversation we had was go fuck yourself. And it's like, why do I do this to myself?
I'm from New Jersey. Go fuck yourself is how I say I love you.
Aw. Go fuck yourself too, Katie.
Thank you.
The should spiral. I mean, Katie, it's been established that you and I approach the world pretty much the same way.
Yep, you're me with a
on
beard.
the last
Got it.
few podcasts. And the overwhelming feeling that we are not doing enough when there's something wrong in our, let's say, poly or swing bubble, because we are in these weird, I don't mean weird. We are in these styles of relationships that put you in closer contact with people than your general friend circle. And in your general friend circle, when something comes up, you can choose to engage or not, because ultimately there is a buffer there. And with your closer friends, you engage a little bit more. And I feel like, I don't think I'm alone in this, that in non-monogamy, poly, obviously, because your little polycule, the degrees of separation are very small in there. But even in swinging, you have established these very intense connections with other people, whether they're loving relationships or not. We've obviously gone on and on about the difference between loving friends and loving partners, but there's still very intense, close relationships. And so when you see conflict, you want to help because you feel you should. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it is helpful, and sometimes you're going to be told to keep your fucking nose out of my business. Yeah. And I would say that it's possible that someone in my situations had said that to someone else. And it adds an extra level of complexity and an extra level of wanting to throw down and, for lack of a better way to say it, cut a bitch. And I'm using bitch in the sense that it could be a male or female.
The gender neutral bitch.
Gender neutral.
The royal bitch.
Cut a gender neutral bitch.
I feel like that needs to be a thing, GNB, the gender neutral bitch. Like, it needs to be a thing because I say it all the time.
Yes.
And there's always a qualification. So, yes. Katie, you were saying.
I was, and see, Coop, I mean, agree. Let me start there. My problem with the should as it relates to action is that's where a lot of my overextension comes from. And when I'm feeling that impulse of I should do this, I should be able to be here for you, I should be able to hear this or hold space for this or any of that, maybe I can rally, maybe I can push myself, maybe I can do the thing that I think that I should.
Yeah.
But am I not taking care of myself? Am I really not going to be capable later when I do need to be there? And God, why did you have to bring the self-awareness to the metaphors? I speak in metaphors. Now I'm sitting here like, well, using another one.
Use away.
Thank you. You know, mine for that one is like when I'm driving my car, when I see that I'm going to run out of gas kind of soon, I have a fair idea of how much further I can go before I'm going to absolutely have to stop. And I get to kind of make that call of, well, I'll drive to that gas station or I'll go for this much further and then I'll stop. And maybe it's not always convenient. You know, if we're looking at filling up your gas tank as the metaphor equivalent of placing your boundary and taking care of yourself and setting your limits, it might not always be convenient. Most of the time it's not. Nobody's ever like stoked to pull over and get gas. But I am certain that my partner would prefer that every time to my car shutting down on the highway because I tried to take it too far. Does that make sense?
Yes, it totally makes sense. And I feel like it's a great metaphor. So you own the metaphor. I love it.
Thank you.
The other piece of that I think is important to recognize is you know, first of all, shoulds are completely useless energy because it's an external stimulus. It's an external, what's the word I'm looking for? It's an external impetus for behavior. It doesn't come from you. It comes from somewhere else that you may or may not subscribe to. So you either need to decide if you want to do it or you don't. And when you don't want to do it, then it's going to come through. So your partner who you are, you know, petting as they're crying with a should, like, oh, I should be here to support my partner, but I'd really rather be anywhere the fuck else. The person's going to feel that and they're going to be like, what are you doing? First of all, you're belittling my emotion. Second of all, you're not helping at all. So it serves our relationship, meaning yours and that partner's relationship, better if you just vacate and you just do what is authentic and real for you. And so being able to communicate those things in that relationship is so important, because if you're just doing the shoulds, people feel that. People feel that there's some sort of weird external, you know, compelling force that's putting you in this position of doing something you don't want to be doing. And so they're not going to be getting the emotional sustenance that you think you might be giving. And it just makes everything worse. And so and Prof would be the first person to tell you this about the shoulds, because that's one of his like least favorite words in the whole world, is you have to do what you want, not what you should want or what you should do. And if that means you have to look your partner in the eye and say, I'm feeling like, you know, it feels right in the big context for me to be here and let you cry on my shoulder, but I need to go take care of myself and come back to be more and real for you in a different way. Like, you have to say that. You have to say the hard thing and allow that partner to, whatever it is, experience that emotion, grieve in their own way, have someone else be the shoulder they cry on, whatever it is, because I feel like it does more damage to a relationship if you're inauthentic than if you really allow yourself to draw a boundary there. Yeah. And then let that person really seek the resources they need elsewhere. And you know what? If you have to repair that after the fact, you do. But I feel like that existence on that inauthentic plane does a longer standing, more damaging, it erodes the emotional responsibility you have with each other. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the thing. Like, you need to be able to, when you cry on a shoulder, to know that that person's not like rolling their eyes over your shoulder.
Absolutely.
And I think, something, I'm sorry, Jen.
No, that's it.
Something that you're alluding to here, and really not all that thinly, is what that I feel like really erodes is your trust in your partner's yes.
Yeah.
And that's a really fucked up place to be. If you tell me no, I might be disappointed. I might even be pissed, but I'll get over it.
Right.
If we continue in our relationship and I ask you for something and you say yes, but now I'm projecting all of my insecurities onto that yes, and I'm doubting it and doubting you and wondering if you're lying and why you don't think I can handle things myself if you can't be here. Like, that's exhausting even just to say.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Katie. Taking yes for an answer. I will end this episode with what I told you about the situation, that it's rough, and it may even get worse for a little while. Mm-hmm. Because divorce has a way of sort of climbing an exponential cliff. So it gets worse, and then done. And then there's some fallout, and it was like, a vacuum in space. It expanded and then contracted really quickly. But it will get better, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Because it will end.
This isn't forever.
And that's the nice thing about divorce, is eventually they end. So it really lean on your social structure as your partner is leaning on you. It's just like psychiatrists should have psychiatrists. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because we all need someone to lean on. And whenever the shoulds come up, remember that we are all doing the best we can. And that goes for your partners, that goes for you. We are doing the best we can. And sometimes that's not good enough, but usually it is. And we will all get through it.
This has been Cooper's final thoughts.
Yes. Take care of yourself
and each other.
So, you can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/theswingset. Actually, no, before I do that, I would love to hear from our listeners. Did you just interrupt your own outro? I did. Dylan's not here. Somebody's got to do it.
That's never happened before.
I would love to hear from our listeners and how they have processed similar things. It's important that we all let each other know that it's okay, because we don't have those extensive examples of how to deal with this. So I'd love anybody who's gone through these experiences to tell us quickly about them on our voicemail at 573-55-SWING. That's 573-557-9464. Because it is important to hear that it is something you can get through, that it is something that can be dealt with, and that it is something that's hard. So I'd love it. I'd love if people could do that. So now you can like us on Facebook.com/theswingset. Follow us on Twitter at Cooper S. Beckett, at Ginger and the Prof, and at that Katie Mack. Dylan was off recording an episode of the Gentle Pervert Social Club, which if you're not subscribed to it, you should, because it's awesome. And he can be found at Dylan the Thomas, and will be returning to the Swing Set next week. Check out this podcast, daily blogs, articles, and toy reviews on our website at lifeontheswingset.com, and on our site's Twitter feed at ontheswingset. Email us at contact@lifeontheswingset.com. We do have another listener mailbag coming up, perhaps in 2 episodes. I can't promise anything, but it's coming up. So please send us an email or leave us a voicemail. We'd really love voicemails. We know you buy a lot of condoms because a lot of you are swingers, and that means you're fucking a lot of people. So condoms are important. So why not buy them at swingsetcondoms.com? It supports this podcast and gets you awesome condoms from the Lucky Bloke. And if you're not sure about what size condoms you should have, which is one of the biggest problems for people who have issues with condoms, you can get their size sampler package that will give you a small, medium, and large, and you can figure out what size condom you actually need.
Were you going to say what size package you have?
What size package you have?
I thought you were going there. I'm sorry. It was
I almost went there. It was subconscious.
It was, and I liked it.
You can support us by buying a shirt and other awesome merchandise like tights, cups, iPhone cases, all that miscellaneous stuff that really you don't necessarily want. You just want to support us. So, that's nice. It's like the tote bag from PBS. Really? I shouldn't denigrate our products. But you can do that at lifeontheswingset.com/support. And you can sign up to support us every time we release an episode for as little as $1 a release or even just $1 a month by tipping us at lifeontheswingset.com/tip. We have gotten some wonderful, wonderful tips on our Patreon page, and I want to thank everybody who's contributed. You're really helping us continue to produce podcasts. And you can find our other great podcasts like The Gentle Pervert Social Club, Intellectual Foreplay, The Kinky Geeks, Eat the Rude Cast, a damn good podcast about Twin Peaks, and Sex Ed a Go-Go at swingset.fm or on our free Android app that has momentarily been taken down by Google's shockingly prudish policies. But we're coming back. We're coming back. Check out Katie Mack's other podcast, Carnalcopia, with Ashley Manta at thecarnalcopia.com. And finally, you can buy My Life on the Swing Set, Adventures in Swinging and Polyamory as an ebook, paperback, or audiobook at mylifeontheswingset.com. If you buy it from me in ebook or paperback in the month of December, use the promo code HOLIDAY and get half price. That means ebooks for $2 and ebooks for $2 and audiobooks for $7.50. That's a pretty good Christmas deal. Or any other fucking holiday. Because happy holidays is the way to be. Thanks for swinging by. Controversy.
Have a sexy business? Love the swing set? Let's put these two great things together. The Swing Set Network has advertising and sponsorship packages available for our websites and podcasts. Email advertising at lifeontheswingset.com for more information. Thanks.
So, Katie, I do have to tell you, when we were on location in Paradise, so many people were wondering why you weren't in Paradise with us, and B, like, oh my gosh, Katie Mack is so great! Like, they would do like a fangirl or fanboy thing at me about you. So I felt like I needed to bottle it up and like open it up for you, like unscrew the mason jar and just like let it all happen in your face, because it was really awesome.
Oh my God, that's so sweet. Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, and it happened like over and over and over again. So I just wanted you to hear that, since you didn't get the full-on live experience. That it was cool. So I'm happy to bring that to you.
Oh, that just made me smile. Thank you.
Good.
Jeez.
Good.
Oh my God, that was the cutest noise. Okay.
She does make cute noises, doesn't she?
Oh, you guys. Oh my goodness.
It sounded like the end of like a video game level where like your little character does like a happy little like and like maybe like flips over backwards. And
oh, totally. I can rock a back tuck. Well, not right now, but
Flashes the
in
Mario
full
peace sign.
bodily mode.
Yes,
absolutely. Cooper. What's that?
We're on the same page, Katie.
What did you say?
being dorky.
I want to hear it though.
You said it was like the little Mario, and like Mario flashes a little peace sign at the end.
Yeah, you know, they started ending all the levels with Mario flashing a peace sign. I think it was in Mario World. That was The first one where like and the music would come to a head, and he'd flash a peace sign on a beat.
Because we all have to do our part for world peace. I mean that's really what that boils down
Mario,
to.
Lindsay Lohan, everybody's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Today's episode's intro featured the world remix of Champions by Astronaut, featuring Harry Brooks Jr. Our episode's interludes and outro featured Pixel, Here For You, featuring Caleb.
This is Kendra Holliday of TheBeautifulKind.com, and you're listening to a Swing Set podcast at Swing Set FM.